So I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 7:01. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd also like to add maybe a moment of silence for the tragedy that happened in Paulet. Him being Green Mountain Power lineman and his wife working at Green Mountain Power, and he was also on the select board in Paulet. So if we could just do that. All right, thank you very much for that. I would like a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Nick. And a second?
Sure.
Anything else? All right, all in favor of the agenda? Okay. Thank you. Any public, I don't have any public input or announcements, do you guys?
Nope.
All right. Approval of the minutes from 9/4.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you.
I can second.
Thank you. Any discussion, edits, anything on that?
Looking for somebody to refresh my memory. There's a note in agenda building that says MRU values.
Let me look
Was
at
that-
Are you what?
MRU values presentation. It's way down at agenda building.
On minutes.
That probably should have been guidance.
Because we
I
have
didn't-
guidance on.
It didn't jog a,
Yeah.
hey, what did we
Yeah.
talk about?
Yeah. Yeah, it was probably guidance, because that's what we have, so.
Yeah.
Good
that
catch.
was-
With that
Good
noted
catch.
change,
Because I did not catch that reading through it either.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, all in favor? I am going to abstain because I was not present. Okay, thank you. So with that, on to guidance update.
Which, something must have popped up, because Sean is running a little bit late.
Okay.
He's going to give that presentation, he's got it ready to go. Do folks want to jump into bylaws and do that when he gets here?
Yes, we'll reevaluate. All right, so on to bylaws, the draft.
He might have been thinking he really had till 7:45 to get here.
Yeah.
No, he really doesn't.
Yay. Oh, wait, that was pretty.
That was a quick travel.
How do you do
Hopefully
that?
safe.
You just
You were
like,
just there.
Beat me down.
Maybe it didn't feel that
yeah,
way to
you
you.
just blink yourself here or what?
Okay, so on to the bylaws draft. Has everybody had a chance to look through it?
it's gotten closer. For discussion purposes, or so that we can have discussions, I would make a motion that we adopt the bylaws
As they are.
as we see with the new modifications.
Okay. Do I have a second? Or we need a second?
I need a second.
Okay.
Good question.
Then we can have discussion.
Correct.
Yes, because you all got this 5 days in advance of the meeting, so we are safe to do all of that.
I'll second it for the purpose of discussion.
Okay, all right, on to discussion,
There you go.
which is what I think everybody wanted.
So really, there are just two changes. The information that Len had on committees is worked in there.
Yep.
And then we have changed on, under Roman numeral 7, we updated the policy to be the appropriate policy.
Okay.
Okay.
All the rest of the policies were correct?
Yep.
That we refer to? Okay.
As they stand today.
Correct.
Exactly.
At this point in time.
And you let us know and we need to re-update. Any more discussion on it, or are we
Yeah,
good with the vote?
I have some.
Okay.
It was interesting, because I did some historical research.
No lordy.
I guess for one day of not having anything better to do. But just and this is just comment. If you look at, if I can find them, the dates that they were amended. Aug- 10/3/2018 was when it was first amended. July, I found that August 18th, 2020, that it was approved by the committee and boards. But here it's 7/20, okay, that's maybe splitting hairs.
Repeat what you just
Said
said.
it
Not-
was
don't-
2020, but it's
2022, 2022, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that should be right, because we did it that summer.
Yeah. Okay. Then, under personnel, there are some things that are included under roles and responsibilities which personnel does not do. For example, the first bullet. We do not participate in the vetting, interviewing, and determination of candidates for board approval for all administrative.
We don't?
Yes, we do, I'm sorry. Neck and cheapers, Crow. I guess,
Well, the recommend compensation packages for administrative positions, is that new?
well,
'Cause I,
it will be, because we decided not to give the administrators a one-year contract. Correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
right, we gave them a 2-year contract.
And they were to be compensated at the same rate as the teachers.
I don't know where that came from. I
Well,
still have trouble. I mean, that's one of those, you know, where, I guess I say, where is that written down?
It's not. And that's why, if you remember,
Yeah.
we had issues around that.
Yeah, I in particular had issues with it because that's assuming that the administrators are part of the bargaining unit,
Correct.
and I don't think we can do that.
But this is not, these bullet points aren't saying,
No,
we don't have to make that distinction in these bullet points. Is that where you're?
Yeah, I mean, I am definitely going off on a bird walk off of that one, but I don't, I guess you guys do, I guess the personnel, I mean, I've attended since March, and we haven't, you know, I guess you did make recommendations around.
No, what
this
we
year's.
did, again, the questions came up in terms of the teachers had a 3-year agreement that
Right.
we agreed to.
I guess
And
I'm
in-
sorry, I think I got us off on a tangent. All I'm saying is, was that in the previous bylaws, or is that a new line?
Which one?
the
Recommend
highlighted are new.
compensation packages
It's
for.
been there.
Okay, so this is highlighted,
Well,
but it's,
Can I clarify?
Hold on.
yeah.
Then we have Josh.
Josh wants to say something.
Oh, sorry, Josh.
These were approved for posting. These were never in the bylaws themselves. So these were additional pieces that the board looked at, I believe at the time, to post on the website. But we've never had a version of the bylaws that I could put my hands on that had this in them.
Roles and responsibilities.
Everything in yellow is the proposed
Yeah.
addition.
Yeah.
Josh,
And I,
but can I just
I
have
was
him
just
do
gonna
it?
try to clarify for Carol that it makes sense for that line to be there now because of how we did decide to move forward after this year. We did say that we were going to start, separating it out, the administration and the teachers. So I think having that line is apt now. We are going forward, that is what the role is.
Okay.
And that did happen in the case that we had administrative staff that started like this year, correct? They had compensation packages that I'm assuming the personnel committee attached to those contracts, correct?
Those go through personnel to be hired. So
Right.
that's part of the hiring process.
Okay.
Yeah, so good question, Stephen.
Okay, so I'm starting to get up to speed, Andrea.
Yes.
Sorry. So you've inserted roles and responsibilities personnel policy. So I'm assuming, Lenny, you did that, since you're on both those committees? But not
No,
for
I didn't
any of
do
the
them.
other committees? Oh, buildings and grounds is there. Should we
Policy too.
be
All the
adding that for
committees are
all of
there.
the committees?
Len, do you remember when those were worked up?
yeah,
Was that 2020?
yep, September 2nd, 2020, committee documents for policy and personnel were approved and reviewed.
Okay, so I guess the reason I'm asking a question is,
We don't have that.
as chair of community engagement, we don't have that. And
No,
I think that would be
each-
really,
Each individual committee
okay,
did these
okay,
on their own.
okay. So it might behoove me at our next community engagement committee to review our roles and responsibilities and then make a recommendation. So,
What?
and finance doesn't have it, negotiations.
Because finance, yeah. So it kind of happens in the beginning when you go over the charge and you go revamp things. This is where some of this could have developed.
Right,
But being, a new committee chair
yeah, right.
and new to, the board, it's a learning curve.
Well,
So-
I just think for the sake of consistency, if you're gonna have the roles and responsibilities for 3, you should have roles and responsibilities for all of them.
And that's fine. So at your next, if you want to put that on your agenda, then that
Yeah,
works.
And that works for community engagement.
Yep.
Finance, who's chair of that?
Me.
You think we should do that for finance?
I suppose if we're doing it.
And then then that leaves
You don't necessarily have to.
negotiations.
Sounds so excited, Stephen.
I know. It's not something you necessarily, but
I don't want
if
us to be
it
left
benefits
out.
your committee, then
Yeah.
yes.
No, I mean, I'm just thinking why have them for some and not others is,
Well, I guess if it's also like if it's helpful, like I think we went through a process too of like figuring out some of these pieces and personnel and it came up, right? So it's like, oh, this is helpful to have too.
And some of this is catch-up, like Len was
Yeah.
pointing out, this is from 2.5 years ago.
Yep.
That it was approved to say, please add this to the bylaws.
No, 4 years ago.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna-
4 years
Nobody-
ago.
please
Yeah.
add the roles and responsibilities, and it hasn't been
And it
added.
hasn't been added.
Okay, and so right now, the motion on the floor is to approve these as written, but can we bring it up in another couple of months and
You
redo
can,
it?
You can bring it up
update your
next
bylaws
meeting.
whenever you want.
Okay, all right, well, that's helpful.
We can
You-
talk to about it
Takes the
whenever.
pressure off.
You need 5 days of
Notice.
folks having the changes in their
Right.
hands, and then a 2/3 vote to approve the bylaws change. So you
Okay.
can do it as many times as you
Yeah.
can fit it
So
in.
you
every
have
year.
time to do
Yeah.
your,
It's really interesting if you're bored someday, to look at the minutes from the past and the bylaws sort of disappear for a while. we're gonna do them at the next meeting, we're gonna do them at the next meeting, we're gonna do them at the next meeting, we're gonna do them at the next meeting. And then it just sort of stopped.
Never happened. Yep.
I mean, did you pick up on that at all, Brian? I mean, I know you were looking at some of that stuff.
Yeah, and I was a little bit involved in the 2022 round.
Right.
Though.
Yes.
So before the 2022 round, I don't know that I really had much of awareness or paid much attention to it.
Well, and I didn't remember all of that until I started looking at it.
And I remember these coming up and being voted on, I do.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, I never paid too much attention to what was going on with it,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
But then in 2022, I think they got lost in the shuffle. Because in 2022, when we sat down to look at the bylaws, we didn't put them in.
When did,
I think COVID
when did you
screwed us up.
start as superintendent?
That's a great question. I got to do the math.
I'm sorry.
He's loving it
But-
so
but
much he forgot.
It's been 2.5 years, so if it's 2024 now, so 23, 22, so halfway through. So,
21.
yeah.
The end of 21, almost.
No.
Beginning of 21, 22.
Beginning of 21? Yeah. So we did
January of
those
21?
bylaws real quick, yeah. Turned around pretty
Because
quick and did those.
because one of the things I think,
Yeah,
and this isn't your fault by any stretch,
yeah.
but I think some folks weren't too pleased with putting in those roles and responsibilities.
Okay.
And I think that's why they might have disappeared.
Fair.
That's my opinion.
And when we picked it up in that summer, I think, I seem to recall it was beginning of the summer, I think it was late spring even, we started looking at it.
Yep.
And we did some summer work on it. What I probably did was I went and I found the 2018 version and printed it out
When
and
was
said,
that?
here, let's go.
Yeah.
It was one of our retreats.
Because that was the last,
It was
that
a
was the only
retreat
thing
we
I
did.
Yeah,
had.
no, that's fine.
With our bylaws, so.
Okay.
So I think we tabled.
We tabled for a while.
Yep.
Okay, so
Well, we have to.
we have a motion, we've
Right.
discussed. Do we have any more discussion?
Discussion on
Yeah, go ahead.
this particular bullet point, just because I want to know, as Finance Committee Chair, if we do have this recommend compensation packages for administrative positions, we have, in this upcoming budget, a second year of an administrative contract coming up that doesn't have a dollar amount on it. So what does this mean? If this is voted into the bylaws, does this mean that personnel is going to recommend to the finance committee the numbers for each individual administrator for that second year?
I think.
And if that is the case, is there also a point where we have, at what point maybe is Brian adding something to that mix as bringing in other
Supervisor.
perspectives of
So I think,
of positions and the region and that sort of thing? Is that with the personnel when it,
So I
has that
think-
already happened
I
before
think
it
two
shows up
different
at finance
things.
committee? What are we talking?
And I'm not at all saying that this is what we should do, but I believe this is how things have worked in the past. When we hire an administrator, that compensation package is figured out, personnel goes that way, we
Yep.
hire. When it comes to increases, that's traditionally gone through finance. So that's been kind of two separate ways of looking at a compensation package when we hire versus looking at raises. That we've kind of done those as two separate things in the past. One's personnel, one's finance. Again, not saying that's what we should do or need to do, but that's how those have happened through two different committees in the past.
And I think traditionally, not talking about the bylaws.
Yeah.
Or anything written down, but
Yeah.
tradition has been that whatever the teachers receive
Yeah.
for compensation, because I talked to a
For a
former
period of time.
administrator here today,
Yeah.
and we both remember when we were here, that's the way it worked.
Yeah.
That if the teachers got a pay freeze, administration got a pay freeze. I happen to remember that one pretty well.
Yeah.
But that, it just worked that way.
Yeah.
So What we're looking at here is a different ballgame.
In both of those, no matter which one you're talking about, the finance avenue or the
Personnel.
personnel avenue, end up at the board.
Both of them what?
End up at the
That-
board.
End up
That's
at
a
the
good
board.
point, Nick.
For full approval.
I also, there was a, well, never mind, I'm wondering, never mind.
Well, anything that happens, and more clarification, on anything that happens in committees has to come to the full board for approval. So we're not just saying that it's finance and then policy and personnel and stuff. It's all of
And I think
it.
another thing worth just making clear, when we hire an administrator and we do that compensation package, that does not, I want to be careful how I say this. We can do that without a tax impact. So when we have somebody leave and somebody come on, we can hire, and we can do that without a tax impact. We work within our approved budget to do
Right.
that. So that going through personnel makes tons of sense and not touching finance because we can do it without a tax impact. When we talk about increases, can't do that
From year
without a
to year.
budget impact. Yeah, so that's why I think that has been done those two different places because of the impacts of those two different decisions. if that makes
Well, and I
sense.
think when you're building the budget, it would make sense. Okay, we hired,
3 principals.
yeah, and they have a contract through next year.
Yep.
Okay? So will we need to adjust at the end of, so that needs to be
That would
considered
be a
in the budget?
finance. Yeah, so that would be a budget piece, why it goes in finance, yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
So I think on a, like, because of all the discussion we've had since the budget got approved and passed, that this year, when we're discussing the budget, I think there needs to be a definite divide between this is our budget and then what happens to taxes. Because I feel like this year, everything got a little wonky and confused. The line significantly disappeared in certain areas. And this year, we need to make it very clear that this is our budget to run the school. And then what we could do in one of our budget meetings is maybe pull somebody in to describe the tax impact on our residents. Because it got so wishy-washy,
Well,
well,
last year.
wonky this year.
Yeah, last year it was hard to know that until,
Exactly.
really actually February. I feel like February, our annual meeting was when we actually had a reasonable number nailed down.
Yep.
Which is not normal. Normally we have those state numbers nailed down close enough in December and the uncertainty is small enough that we can ballpark it. The uncertainty was huge last year, and the numbers weren't nailed down either. So it was really hard to get a ballpark until we got to February. But I think the nice thing about last year, when we did get down to those numbers and we did say, you know, Wallingford, Clarendon, Shrewsbury, you're looking at like a 5 to 8. What it ended up being was about a 4.5 to 7.5. We were pretty darn close in what we told folks what was going to happen and what did happen. I do think it gets challenging because, and I think we were talking this last meeting too, weren't we? It gets tricky because when you see your tax bill, you might see something that's very different than 4.5 or 5 or 6. You might see 10 because more goes into your bill than just the education.
Exactly. I think that we need to,
We will be
this year, definitely
as
make
clear
more
as
of
we
an
can
awareness.
about what the impact's going to be. Yeah. And try and, you know,
Try and decipher the difference between the two, and then maybe even with our budget, saying we would like to put this amount into our, why am I thinking of, like, wood shop? And like, you know, like that part explaining too, because we're getting so many questions since last budget of where is it all going and what's happening. So I think if anything, just being a little more cautious this year.
Mhm.
Sorry, I totally went off on a thought, but
And put a plug in for early October.
Yes.
Everybody's welcome to the October 1st finance meeting.
okay, so do we have any more discussion on the bylaws? Because the bylaws kind of shimmy into the next agenda item a little bit.
I think we still don't have clarity around that third bullet point we've been discussing.
It-
But-
So did
Oh.
you,
Do we want to, I mean, I think what the intent of that, and Len, weigh in if you feel differently, the intent of that is when we hire new
it's
administrators.
hiring compensation package.
So maybe we need to see, yeah, maybe
We
we
could
need to
add that
state
word in
that.
there.
If that word
For
is in there,
new.
it helps.
For
Hiring
new,
new.
yeah, if we put recommend compensation packages for new administrative positions, I think that might be where we're hung up, right?
But it is flagging a conversation we have to have too. It's like, are we clear on the process of when admin have the opportunity to negotiate for their packages?
We'll be doing that through finance and Stephen and I have touched base a little bit about
Right,
that.
and,
Okay,
and
great.
that's
So
why,
that-
that's why I wonder if like putting a word in like hiring compensation package clarifies that so that it's not
Yeah.
a little bit in the future, in 3 years, when people
Yep.
are like, well, but this says.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
Or
I
6
think so.
months, when
Or
you guys
yeah.
get bullets under your,
Right, yeah.
under your committees, you know? We might pull back that bullet there and go, okay, wait, what were we trying to say again?
Our bullet on
Yes.
finance will say for like,
Yeah.
Okay.
the raises.
And so same then is, what about for the superintendent's compensation package, which is a couple below?
Superintendents. Yeah, I would think
Same?
same. We're
Okay.
talking about hiring.
'Cause that's
and
finance.
Initial contracts and hiring with this. Is that?
And I could argue you could do that differently because personnel owns supervision evaluation. So I would say that, when I come to finance, I can tell you about why a certain increase makes sense. I'm not going to do that for myself. So personnel doing that based on supervision and evaluation and how things are going and how things look, I would argue that we could have that be a different. What do you?
Yeah, no, I agree. Even though personnel conducts the evaluation, the entire board sees that evaluation and Brian's, and the superintendent's response to that evaluation and next steps going forward. Any compensation package, while the personnel committee could recommend it based on the evaluation, that's something that would still have to be approved by the full board.
Correct.
Yes. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
So, no, I think that's great to
Yeah.
bring that up. So I think what I'm hearing is, for the third bullet point down, we're going to revise that to make it clear that that's for newly hired
For new-
administrative
New hires,
positions.
For new hires or something.
Yeah.
For new administrative positions.
Compensation packages.
But we're not touching the superintendent one because that is a little more comprehensive and we don't want to narrow it down. Fair?
Fair.
Okay.
That is
So,
notes in the margin to remember these actions. That's clear now.
we already have having a thought. Can we pull back the motions and table this and revote next meeting?
You would have to have your person who seconded
And I don't
be
remember.
willing to, Len,
Say that
I
again.
think you seconded.
Pull back your
Yes.
renege,
Rescind your
rescind, there you go.
second, and
I
then Nick would
like
have to
renege.
rescind his motion.
Yes.
We have to have a
and
copy 5 days in advance.
So if we get it edited,
Yeah. Okay,
and
so I'll rescind my second.
And I will rescind my motion.
thank you, and it is on the agenda for 2 weeks.
Yeah. And
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Absolutely the way you need to do it, because you cannot propose a change and adopt that change tonight. So, great.
Thank you.
I will
Is
add
that in the
that.
bylaws?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
It's at the very end.
You can change if you want. Now's your
You
chance.
have literally
chance.
7 days.
Yep.
That's it.
I will get that language updated so that we can get it in the next materials packet. So you'll have it 5 days ahead and you can do it next time around.
So can I ask?
Do you have a meeting in the meantime?
Middle of, it's right before.
Don't
so
worry,
we
don't
won't-
push it. Carol,
Well,
don't-
no,
don't.
because then you don't have the 5 days ahead
No,
of time.
exactly.
So that's why I was wondering if we put this off, but I don't know what the
We're not.
schedule is.
Yeah, we'll just push it to next, because hopefully it
I
won't
get this
take too
part
much,
done, and then we'll
and
worry
then
about the next
We'll
part.
worry about
We got
when you
you.
guys have bullets.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, Sean, do you mind if we go on to the next agenda item?
No, you're good.
Because it rolls.
Keep going.
Andrea,
Yes, Nick?
I found another edit.
Well, email Brian and let him know.
There's two Roman numeral 9s.
Oh.
Oh, that's like a English edit.
Should
Oh,
one
it's a
be,
Roman
should the
numeral.
next one be 10 or something? Is that?
Well, I was trying to point out to Len where the bylaw change was, and it goes
yeah.
9-9.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oops.
Right there.
We'll
Good
fix that.
catch, good catch.
Good job, Nick.
Next.
Okay, so the next, I'm gonna roll into the next one and then we'll get to Sean. Is just board officer roles. So in your bylaws, even though these have been here forever, we have duties of the officers. We're gonna touch that for a second, and then I want to have a little bit of a discussion in regards to, as you go up, down, all around, as you go up in the bylaws.
Four, Roman numeral 4, letter D. Is that what you're looking for? Duties of the officers?
Yeah, kind of. Well, yeah. Okay, so let's go over D. And then we're gonna go over something else. So, it just kind of goes through the duties of the officers. So we have a board chair, then we have a vice chair, then we have the board clerk. Those are, like the three officers of the board. So does anybody have any questions in regards to chair, vice chair, and board clerk? So our clerk is Nick, because we elected him as clerk. In case anybody forgot who our clerk was.
Well, just like, because we changed, Rebecca is now, is it
Our
still feel okay that
minutes-
like clerks arranging? Does that feel
Well, it
okay?
says a
Yeah,
member
that-
of district staff.
Yeah,
Okay.
that, and because we may not always have Rebecca doing it,
Yeah.
I think that's fine, we'll keep it that way.
Okay, great.
I have a question, it's just sort of a clarifying question. The clerk that's at the annual meeting, that's not
That
That's-
to do with this.
our-
That's a separate clerk, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need.
Correct.
That's our mediator. We have our mediator at the annual meeting, and then we
Moderator.
have our moderator. I can't speak tonight. And then we have is it still Crystal?
Yes,
Usher?
Crystal.
Crystal as, who does, like, sending out to the towns if somebody resigns and we need a position filled, or things like that, that type of clerk stuff. That's what Crystal's done for us for years.
Yeah, and that is a function of the towns, not a function of the school board.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Good question.
Any other questions on that part of it? So then I kind of want to just do a touch base, and I wish Pat was here, but her and I had spoke other times. So as far as, let's go up to B.
Under 4?
No. Anyway, it might not be in here. So basically, I think what I'm trying to get at. We've had some confusion with like community members emailing the board, which we're gonna always have, and who addresses when, and how we kind of integrate all of that stuff that comes. We always get a lot of it around budget time. We get a lot around any other events or things that might happen with us. Most, and unless the chair has designated for a certain like committee to kind of answer that part, because there is all of the different committees that are, you kind of like specialize in certain things. Unless that kind of happens, then they would be responsible for maybe, or helping to respond to an email or a conversation that has happened that way. For the most part, if somebody is sending, or a community member is sending emails, or not very often we receive phone calls. We more get it at the dump. Get a conversation that started or whatever. The chair or the vice chair could respond, and with hopes that maybe everybody is then included in the reply, so that everybody can kind of keep tabs on what's going on in a conversation. And I don't have anything specific. I'm just kind of saying that as a board. Brian, you're good at explaining this. Because I work with little kids all day on speech.
Fair enough. Do we wanna maybe put something in writing?
I thought we had.
I think the last time we brought it up as a board, years back, we did have something formal written. The last time we brought it up and talked about it, we decided we didn't want something formal written.
Are we talking about communications right now?
Yeah, I
About how
think-
we communicate? I
Who-
think Josh probably
Whose
has.
responsibility is it to respond when one or several members are asked a question or brought a complaint? Josh?
Josh, what's your, yeah.
So we were in Wallingford, I think, or Clarendon, when we talked about this, because we had the thing that said, if, an email comes in, it then goes, you have a certain amount of days to send it to all of us, and then we would respond back to the chair, and then the chair would respond. But
This
at the
was
end
like-
of that conversation, we said, none of that is actual, because none of that is forward, like, we can't have discussion about it, we can't do any of that type of thing. And so then we said, we don't want any of that anymore. And it was, it's not even really the chair can't even really speak on the board's behalf if we don't tell them to speak on our behalf.
Exactly. Yes.
And I don't know where that led us to, like, with, actually how we respond, but in general, like, I personally, I just don't respond. I, forward it if it's not to to Brian or whatever, and then if we need to talk about it at a board meeting, then that's the appropriate time. But I don't.
Well, and most of the time what's, brought to us and stuff is something that we want to talk about as a board. Or bring to a committee that may have more, specifics on it or something like that. So I guess I just want to make sure that we're referring to our community member, or respecting what comes into us, and that we're all giving what we can for correct information, which may end up being redirecting to what we need to redirect to get the information. Yes, Carol.
So, I might have screwed up, but recently we had an email that was the purview of Building and Grounds. So as a member of Building and Grounds at that meeting, public meeting, I asked whether other members had seen that. And I
That
think,
email?
yeah, that
Oh,
particular
okay.
email, which
It
I
was
think
sent to
went
the
to
whole
everybody
board.
on the board, but nobody responded for like 2 weeks. So I asked the question that was asked in that email at the Building and Grounds Committee. I got a response from Tim. I responded to the person. and Tim, and Tim responded to the person. So anyway, so what should have been done? Because nobody responded to that
Well,
email.
and that's the thing, I think I had already responded 3 times and kind of had navigated a little bit of it.
But
The
nobody
problem was
let
I
us
may not
know.
have responded to all.
Yeah.
And
so-
just replied to that one person. So I think we need to be, and that's totally my fault. I should have let everybody know what I was doing.
So I would like, clarification.
So we
on
need to
that.
just make sure that, and maybe I know that when I had referred to the chair of buildings and grounds so that they could somewhat help with that. And I am hoping that they would pass on to Tim and, trying to do that part of it, because I feel like sometimes I have to delegate some stuff out. So that was just a confusion. It's all taken care of now. But I think when we just got to be a little cautious on some stuff. Yes, Nick?
Is that under D, Officer of Duties?
I lost where I was. I don't know.
In the bylaw?
I lost
In the
my
bylaws.
bylaw.
That's okay. It says Board Chair.
No, I got it.
It says MRUUSD Board Chair shall preside over meetings of the board and shall be the official spokesperson for the board unless the board directs otherwise. Is that not covered in that one sentence?
That's what I think that's what I was trying to look for. Couldn't find.
I think,
Not that we want you to field all of our emails, but
well.
Not that any
and
chair,
If
yeah,
I remember
want to.
correctly, one of the bigger issues we had is when the board chair responded to a letter from a local community and had not consulted with any of the board members.
Exactly. And that was.
And if
yeah,
you
years
remember,
ago.
that was a huge to-do. I mean, huge.
I wonder if we can't come up with maybe 2 different
Yeah.
general buckets of scenarios.
Yeah.
One bucket would be redirecting to the person that you should talk to first.
Yep.
And I think that's something that, if the board is comfortable with Andrea having that authority of somebody asks a B&G question, oh, hey, have you talked to Tim Hart yet? I copied him on this email. He'd be happy to help you. Those are things that if the board is comfortable with Andrea having those communications.
Or anybody, not just saying me. I may not be chair.
The confusion
Like,
is.
later on.
If,
Well, I think
if
it
it's
should
an
be the
email
chair.
if it's an email that has everybody, including the chair, then I think chair makes sense. If it's an email just to Kim, I think that's harder. And that might be reasonable for Kim just to do the redirection. But I do think if the chair's on the email, that's a little bit of the chair's job.
Well,
For that one bucket.
Yeah, and
Sorry, did you want to say something, Kim, more?
Oh, I guess I'm just thinking it's like reply all, if it's the whole board, just make sure that it's the whole board replied all to, and it's just like a super standard,
Yep.
couple sentences, and there's no, there's no discussion.
Yep.
and if it's not to the full board, I think I get an email from
Yeah.
someone, and it's to me.
Yeah.
Because he's chair of personnel.
Doesn't matter, maybe
And
they
it
just
doesn't
like me.
matter. I mean, it
No,
could
yeah.
be.
They just
I mean,
want to
it
talk to
doesn't-
Lenny.
It's my next
Yeah.
door neighbor, but anyway.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Lynn.
But what should be my responsibility then is to send forward that and tell the person, I will forward this email to the board chair and the chair of the committee responsible.
Yeah.
And I'm out of it.
Reasonable, totally reasonable.
So I think it's the communication.
And then I think you have bucket 2.
Yes.
Yep.
And bucket 2 is going to be a scenario where you go, thank you, we will put that on our board agenda for discussion.
Yeah.
Because there might be some things that you go, that they have spoken with people, they have done what they're supposed to do. Now, this is an issue that is something the board does need to discuss. And I think that is, when you read the case law, that's not discussion. So even a quorum of board members on an email saying, hey, did you get this email? I think it needs to go on the next agenda. And people say, yeah, it does. That's not discussion.
No.
That's
That's setting up a date.
Yes.
right? For
It's
a-
more,
Which is
it's more,
by statute,
Agenda
okay.
it's more affirmation
Yeah.
than.
Yes,
Yeah.
because we have to be careful
So,
of that.
or, and even if you say something like, whoa, that's gonna be a really interesting one, let's put it on the agenda. That's not considered discussion, believe it or not. The case law is pretty specific. You can have a little bit of a reaction to the
yeah.
item,
And
but,
set up a,
don't start going back and forth and talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it. Yeah. So I think bucket one, you're gonna chair respond or forward to chair to redirect to the right person. Bucket two, you're gonna put it on the agenda. And I
But chair,
wonder if that covers
but chair can
98%.
be chair. It can be chair of board, chair of policy, chair of buildings and grounds, chair
I
of.
think you do both.
Exactly.
Yeah, both.
Doesn't hurt to do both.
Because, yeah, we
And
have
if it's
committee.
an email that goes to everybody, since it sounds like you responded and then I brought it to the committee, how do we know that the chair
Well,
responded?
hopefully the chair remembers to reply to all
By all, yeah.
and not just reply. I think that's.
So I
will
probably should have
totally
said,
take.
Andrea, have you done anything
And you
with
could have,
this?
yeah, just
Okay.
emailed me and said.
I got it.
Hey, have you done? And I
I
should
got
have
it
said,
now.
"Shh, whoops, sorry.
What if I type that up for the benefit of folks who maybe aren't here as well?
Yes.
So that we can have that as materials, not that we do anything with it next meeting, but just that it's attached and everybody can read back over it. Is that
That
reasonable?
sounds good. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
You
I
put
like
it
bucket
with
one and bucket
that,
two.
list of reasons to have executive session.
Yes.
Do you want me to attach that to the minutes?
I have that,
Materials,
it's,
just so everybody has it?
It's a nice laminated
Yeah.
piece.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
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 Looks a lot like that.
Everybody's got it now. Great.
Brian, did you get
I
one?
brought that.
I've got one. Yeah,
Okay.
I've got one
I
in
think
here.
they forgot. Did they forget you?
I didn't get a fun
I
laminated
didn't
one.
get it laminated.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll have to
Madam
laminate
Chair,
some.
Stephen hasn't gotten one of these, so
Me
if
neither.
you have.
Okay, then we will arrange for everybody to have a laminated one, and then
Barry
we'll get a
was
hold of
on the
the SBA to
Or
send
you
them out.
guys, you must have been.
Okay, so with all of that done, we are now going to move right along and have Sean do the guidance update.
Hey, Sean.
Let me see if I can get this to go correctly.
And now it's 7:45. Is that
Is that one?
Yeah.
I love it when tech works. Ready to roll? Okay.
Go right
So
ahead.
we haven't met Sean Robinson. I'm the principal of Mill River. I think I've been here a couple of times so far, and they're always fun and exciting. I love talking about the awesome work that our school does, and I look forward to every opportunity to do so. School counseling wasn't able to be here tonight. They wanted to be. They had some prior commitments, and would like you to know that if at any point in the future you would like to hear them talk and share their own kind of personal stuff, they're available to come in. We put together about a 10-minute presentation together so we could hide highlights from them. It just happens that I'm the talking piece for the department tonight, so I apologize for that, but that's where we're at. So one thing you'll notice is school counseling versus guidance. It's been one of our kind of first big conversation points this year. The department is really looking at rebranding to school counseling to reflect a shift in models. They're two kind of different things. Guidance counselors back in the day were, to stereotype a little bit, someone sitting in an office, they kind of do your college applications, they might write a letter of recommendation, and like that was kind of it. School counseling over the last 20 years has really changed to talk about people who are inside a network of relationships at the school, looking at students holistically, looking at students social emotionally, looking at career paths other than just college, and frankly, I like to think of them as our building ninjas. They're there when there's a problem, they fix the problem, whether it's something simple or something really complicated, really to help the students do better. So there's just a little bit of a difference there between kind of mindsets. There is an American School Counseling Association, ASCA, that has a model that talks about what a department could look like. Ours is looking at it to see if it fits for us, and some self-reflection there about kind of where do we see ourselves as a program inside the school, which is great. We've really invited them to take some leadership and some self-direction about kind of where they see themselves going and kind of how do they interact with so many different stakeholders, including the community. So if you hear school counseling or guidance, it's going to flop for probably forever. But we're trying to brand it as civil counseling, just again, as a reference to kind of a broader and more nuanced thing that they've been doing anyway, just a language thing. We have a pretty awesome staff right now. So we have 2 high school counselors. They break it up based on last name, so you'll keep the same school counselor in high school for 4 years. We have brought on board a middle school counselor with some support from some grant work and some local funds, which has been wonderful. Lynn Patrick keeps everything running as the registrar. She's the person you call when you have a new student who's looking to come to school or you're looking to find a transcript from 15 years ago. She is on the case. If you've never had the opportunity to meet with her, she knows all things and is wonderful as a resource. Again, that counseling model, we've been working really hard to think about how are we supporting students' mental health. Our school counselors are often the first line of defense. So there's kind of the core team, and then there are people who are parts of other departments, but are also really important folks that we interact with and intersect with, which include Alex Welch-Miller, who's just come on board as a special education counselor. She offers mental health counseling to students on IEPs. Patrick Benini is part of a partnership with Rutland Mental Health, and Justin Walker, who we all know is a school psychologist here in the building. This is a larger group, and are actually starting to try to meet on a fairly regular basis to talk about supporting students kind of across the building in the district. So it's a great team of people who are really looking at interconnecting and growing. If you've never been to school counseling, they do a lot of cool stuff. Some of that's the traditional academic guidance you might think of. Where am I going to go to school? What kind of classes should I take? Do I want to take French? Do I want to take Russian? Should I do this internship? Kind of things along those lines. If you're having a tough day, your boyfriend breaks up with you, your friends are being mean to you, oftentimes they wind up in school counseling to have just a few minutes of support to talk about how do you navigate when your friends are making bad choices and you don't want to be one of those students, kind of those situations. Again, career and college planning, we'll talk about some of the awesome stuff that's on the agenda for the next couple of months. Behavioral issues, again, when we have a student who's having a tough time, it's all hands on deck, and they often have really great insight talking about kids that they work with and perspectives that they have. Our school counselors are certified counselors and often offer a lot of really great perspective. And then again, collaboration, they're the ninjas, they meet with everybody. And again, school programs and systems, thinking of positive interactions, anti-bullying kind of work programs like that. 2 big things that we covered as the beginning of the year happened that we wanted to highlight, particularly at the high school level. We have had for a long time, and I'm unclear how long, but quite some time, a work study option where students could work in the community with some expectations and some paperwork and get high school credit for it, particularly for electives. There had been some limitations related to when you could do it. We wanted to expand kind of the opportunity, knowing that work is work and work is really hard sometimes. So we wanted to really maximize the opportunities students could have who are working in the community and being students full-time. So that's been great for some of our students who are perhaps working through and doing the hard work at school, and school's hard for them too, which has been great. There's a maximum there for 2 elective credits over the course of their school year, their school careers, so there's a cap to that. Part 2, we're working through increasing opportunities for flexible pathways. Flexible pathways offer students to do work, could be an internship, could be a different kind of opportunity depending on what kind of the student's pitch and perspective is. As an example, we've got a couple of students who are working with a local plumbing company at the moment, another who's doing an internship with physical therapy. It's a little bit more of an academic, kind of explicitly academic components there, doing some written work, some projects, some presentations, and there's a lot more opportunity to get creative with it, which is awesome. And so one of the things we're hoping for is for students who are trying to figure out their path, it's giving them more options to connect with community resources to find that path and make sure they get academic credit for it. Again, these are all elective credits, and we could do a deep dive on like how that all works out. But it's an opportunity that we're really seeing already some positive gains on. We have some students who have had a tough time in school. And then we also have some students who are really high flyers who are looking for new, innovative stuff to do. We've been able to offer some nice alternative options that maybe we couldn't have before. So those are kind of 2 big things recently. Events, we received a grant with VSAC, which is a college preparation nonprofit. We'll be having a presentation this Friday, talking about overcoming obstacles and anti-bullying. Senior nights, September 26th. We have just started college admissions visits, which is super exciting, so we'll continue those throughout the season. And then we're working with advisory leaders related to building resumes and cover letters, particularly for seniors and juniors, so we can start working and helping support our students who are looking for employment after graduation or over the summer, kind of wherever they happen to be. Couple of goals that folks have. We're hoping some of our registration materials can go from hard copy to digital. It's an ongoing process. School counseling goes through a lot of paper, to be honest. Everyone's experienced the forms that go back and forth. We're really hoping to digitize as much as is practical for that, so it's an ongoing process to figure out how do we do that. Power School is part of what runs the school's life. It's a computer program that does everything from schedules to attendance to grades to the whole thing. It is super helpful, and it is an ugly, ugly beast, to be honest. So we're trying to deepen our understanding of the program so it runs a little bit better on our end, so it can run better on parents' ends too. So it's an ongoing process, which is great. Again, an ongoing kind of commitment to working with school counselors across the district, really helping streamline systems and spending some time together. Once a month, we have an opportunity to appeal, see a professional learning community committee. School counseling is going to be meeting again with some of our other stakeholders to really talk about what services do we offer, what should we offer, what do we need to offer, what kind of needs are we seeing, so we can continue giving kids the best we can. And then having our school counselors talking about intervention opportunities. So if kiddos are having a tough day, what kind of menu can we pull from to help support them a little bit more explicitly? They all like fancy different names and stuff, so that we can sort of offer a broader set of opportunities for students, and so we can name kind of where people's expertise is. So if the student has, struggling with executive functioning in terms of getting tasks done, who's the person who's got expertise in that area that could help support that particular instance versus someone who's working with anger management or something like that. And so trying to highlight people's skills so we can direct students to where they need to go, which is an ongoing process. Any questions? Also, that's the Sugar Shack. I'm sorry for context. That is not an outhouse. I threw a picture in.
That is
so
not the guidance office.
That is not the guidance. I'm really sorry. I meant to put pictures in. And so I went to football today, and I stumbled across the Sugar Shack, which I knew was there but hadn't seen. So I was like, this is super cool. So I apologize for that looking a little bit like an outhouse. If you haven't gone to the Sugar Shack, it's super cool. It's back behind the building, and I just never seen it there before.
It is an amazing build. They did an amazing job on that thing.
And on the outside, not to and I'll get to my shout outs because I do that every single time I present, and I'm sorry in advance. They had put on the left hand side, you can see these boards that talk about how much syrup they've done, which is just super cool, at least for me.
Wait till you see it in springtime.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, bring it on. I'm super excited.
It's gonna smell great out back.
Rent a bucket.
Excellent.
Yep.
So I have a question that came up, and it actually, Denise, it kind of comes from the questions that you had earlier and about the flexible pathways,
Yeah.
but for high achieving students. And, you talked about some kids who are doing apprenticeships
Yep.
in sort of technical or, construction areas.
Sure.
Is there an attempt to look at kids who are high achieving, are in their senior year? There's not a lot of course offerings, but maybe they have a career path in mind that could, tie them into, something that they might be interested in. And
Yeah, well, I have an answer too. I'll
Okay,
get
go
that too.
for
No, you're good. So as an example, we actually have a student at the moment who's interning in a physical therapist's office. So who's a high flyer, is a high flyer as well. So plenty of opportunity there. I think one of the things we're trying to figure out, and Jody, if you've got more context for me, we're trying to figure out what makes sense, and then trying to make sure that we're pairing people up with community partners to make sure those are positive experiences. I think, frankly, COVID shut down a lot of really good momentum towards good things.
Sure.
And so we're trying to really build some opportunity there based on what people want. One thing I would say so far has been these have largely been student driven. Students, hey, I have this this kernel of an idea, I have this thing going on, and we've helped them from that portion in particular.
Okay.
And
But-
that's one of the counselors that takes the reins there to help?
Yeah, so the student, so at this point, submits an application, talks to the counselor, submits an application, sort of outlining what that experience is gonna look like. And then everyone involved signs off on it. And then we're working on having, sort of appropriate mid-time check-ins. So we're trying to figure out exactly what makes sense for us there still. I think we're looking at like once a month, something like that, to do check-ins to make sure things are going okay. And then wrapping it up at the end of the time period. We're trying to iron out some of those kinks as we go, to be honest. It was an effort that we're trying to kind of get off the ground right at this, 3 weeks in school.
Yeah, that's what, I guess that leads to my next question, is how do students find out that this is an option? Like, how, is that advertised, or is it just kind of like, oh, one person mentions it to someone else? So how are you?
Yeah, so
letting-
right this second, probably more the second than the first. I think part of it is because the students in particular circumstances have presented these as opportunities or ideas or situations. We want to try to understand what makes the most sense to make sure this goes well, and trying to tease out what has been successful, so that we don't set someone up to fail, or we set up ourselves in a position where we find a community partner who's really eager and the wrong student kind of gets there and it doesn't work out for them. The other thing, not for nothing, is bandwidth. Our counseling staff may look robust, but if we suddenly have 20 or 30 people who are in the community, we need to really kind of look at how our resources are deployed, which would be perfect and ideal to be able to function. The other thing, kind of not for nothing, is that there are still a lot of programming opportunities outside of just flexible pathways for students in different places. We have dual college enrollment opportunities. We partner with the tech. There's a lot of other stuff there too. We're trying to get a sense of kind of need as well. As we're kind of working through it, we're open to stuff, and if people are interested, I'd love to be able to present a more formal, kind of clear-cut process that we're still trying to navigate a little bit.
And I would just add to that, so each school counselor divides the seniors and meets with them 3 times over the course of their senior year. In the September-October meeting, one of those conversations is, what are some thoughts about your future for students who are looking for more work-based experience? That is the place where we start to have those conversations and frequently start to reach out to community partners. So, I could list 8, because I split it last year with the counselors because we were down somebody. 8 different people that Randy reached out to when we co-did some of those meetings to try to get some of that set up. And the paperwork is in that course of studies. If you go onto the high school webpage, there's explicit instructions for students as well as an application for how to do a flexible path.
Thank you. This is like super interesting and totally from like a parent standpoint. I was like, oh, this is great information. And so I'm thinking about ways in which to just have parents and caregivers feel equipped around like all this knowledge, and like also like how best to engage, like when and why to engage with counselors, yeah, just that.
So just to clarify my understanding of the question, are you looking for us to offer some like clarity around what that could look like to parents? Or are you asking me sort of specifically, like when should you as a parent, just so I can understand the
No,
question?
for parent, yeah, more broadly speaking, kind of like school counseling 101 for parents and caregivers.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be, I think the team would be super on board with doing that. We're looking at revamping the website a little bit to have some kind of easy to find stuff. There's a lot of stuff there to kind of go through, and we're trying to highlight what's kind of the most helpful.
Just a quick question. Is there still online opportunities for courses?
There is. The VTVLC is an opportunity for our students. There's some finiteness related to like numbers of seats and stuff, but it's an opportunity if kids want to do it.
Okay, thanks.
I have one other question. Just, it's a big change, like you were saying, from like guidance to counseling, but in all the bullet points of what school counselors do, it sounds like those are already things that were happening. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just like naming it and making it explicit.
Yeah, and so it's the same things we've been doing for a really long time, but it represents sort of an aspirational point of the work that's being done. And I think when we look at the national models, we just sort of see the shift, kind of just understanding that those days of that kind of one person are sort of over. We expect sort of more from our folks than that. It's a little more nuanced than it might have been 30 or 40 years ago.
One more quick one, sorry. I believe I saw that the school counselors will be building the schedule in 25, 26. Did I
So-
see that?
Yeah, so part of what we do between us in my role and the school counselors, we're the ones who put together what the schedule is going to look like in a
Yep.
nuts and bolts kind of way.
Yep.
One of the goals that school counseling has from a power school end, power school as a product will create the bulk of the schedule
Yep.
if we do it right. Historically, it's been done by hand, where you come into a room like this and everybody's got a sticky note and you fill up the entire wall.
Right.
And it's sort of a wretchedly unpleasant situation because you're trying to juggle like 150 classes on a big, big wall and you're hoping you don't lose a sticky note. So we're gonna work collaboratively to get that done. One of the nice things that we should be able to do is have people put in their course requests rather than on paper into the computer,
Yep.
so that we can then say, okay, these are where people wanna be. And hopefully we'll get to a place where it's just a little bit less laborious, to be honest. And so they're the folks who kind of hit the button to do that.
Would that help with class size? Heard a bit about that, and that certain things can't be offered because there's not enough kids, or you don't have the staff really to offer things, so that,
So hopefully, I mean, we'll figure out some of those. Some of those are logistical, right? So one of the things I'm doing right now is pulling class numbers to sort of see where are people thinking about, 25, 26 seems like 1,000 years from now, but it's really not.
yeah, I know.
Trying to see how to balance work out. The reality is that in some places we're strapped for people. That's just a truth. The other thing that happens, I think, sometimes is that things are unexpectedly popular, which is a super cool problem to have. The example I think of is our AP Environmental Science. Last year had really, really low enrollment. This year it had like 19 or something. It was just an unexpected boost, and if that continues, awesome, super great. But I think last year had like 5 or 6. So some of that happens, and then the truth of the matter is that, yeah, there are places where things are tight. Physical education is a good example. Everyone's got to take health, and it means those classes are pretty robust compared to other places. And so one of our hopes is to look at some of that. Having a system will help us understand where people want to be. So how do we break those down some? And then we're having conversations internally related to like how big should a class be? How small is too small? What is our approach there? And we've had some guidelines related to that for a long time, but we're going to go back through those. That also helps set expectations, because I think we offer some great stuff, and it's important to also remember that like people need to want to take those classes, not just because we love them. And how to navigate that stuff a little bit.
Is the class size policy on the agenda for the policy committee at all, anywhere along the way?
Not in the near term.
That's fine.
But,
That's the state, right?
but,
That's the state.
no.
No.
The state
No, that's
talked
us.
about doing that a year or a year and a half or so ago, and they backed up from doing it, so it's us. We do
really?
have coming October 16th that I will be speaking about class size, because the policy requires that we bring it up and we talk
Yep.
about it. If there are no more questions for Sean, I do want to throw one thing out. I will include this in my class size conversation as we look at some more things that have budget numbers and budget implications. But I think relevant, Len asked for this the other day, and I think it lines up with our conversation about student numbers and courses that we can offer, things like that. School choice. So thinking about school choice and thinking about tuition, whenever we talk about class size and we talk about enrollment, I think that's a piece of enrollment that matters a lot and is worth folks knowing. School choice is the program that high schools anywhere, a child can elect to go to a different high school so long as they turn their application in on time and there are spots available. We have funding does not follow students. So students make those choices, they fill out their applications. If spots are there, they get those spots. Currently, we have 18 students accessing school choice out. We have 13 students accessing school choice in. And while I've been watching those numbers, that's been a fairly consistent, about a gap of 5. is normal. Tuition students, dollars do follow those students. We have 67 tuition students in, which makes a very, very large difference in what we can offer to our students. I know we're talking about trying to offer more, but 67 tuition students lets us offer a lot. You know, while it feels like we don't offer enough, that helps us offer a lot, which is a kind of crazy thing to think about. If we didn't have those tuition students, we'd be having a very different conversation. So I'll include those numbers again later, because you don't have them on paper in front of you, but Lan asked about it late last week, so I wanted to at least bring it up
And
tonight. And it seems to connect at least to our
Yeah,
conversation.
and we have a conversation every year about numbers in, numbers out, whether, because we
Yeah,
can
you
change
approve
those.
that number
Yeah.
annually,
Yeah.
so around like February, we'll do that, I think, January or February.
Yeah.
Yep, good reminder.
Just got one a captive audience shout outs. Our Tri-M group of folks is a student group. They're planning Spirit Week, a pep rally, and a homecoming game. Homecoming is October 5th. Be there, be square. Rumor has it there may be such a thing as a mechanical bull to enjoy the games. Show up with awesomeness there. Shout out to our assistant principal and our school resource officer. They've started doing home visits for students who are truant or having school attendance concerns. This is past practice that sort of fell by the wayside. It takes, frankly, a lot of guts to do home visits. As someone who's done them, I just want to shout them out because it is a tough situation kind of for everybody involved. But it was great that this is something they felt they needed to do, and I'm super on board with that. And we ended 2 visits in a positive way, which was great. Our school PBAS team, this on the right-hand side, if you go through middle school is it's positive behavior and reinforcement. We have a team who's working through that in the middle school. You can see some of their work in the halls. They're currently having kindness challenges every day, which is just super cool. The energy in middle school is really positive this year, which is really kind of palpable to see. And then open house, if you hadn't had a chance to be there, it was an awesome night. People were really excited about it. A little crowded, learning as we go, but people in general were great. We had a committee of folks who planned it kind of last minute to make some changes happen. And then Forever Facilities, who puts up with me showing up saying, hey, I need 12 tables. And if you hadn't picked up those tables, they're like 50 pounds a whack. They're from like the 60s. They're gonna like outlive the building. And I went to pick one up and I went, nope, that's not a 1-person carry. And our 4 custodians were happy to like move those all around. So I just wanted to shout out some people who are doing some cool stuff while I have a captive audience. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, personnel.
I think that's me.
I'm open.
We did not have a personnel committee meeting tonight, but we will have one in October, whatever the first Wednesday of October is, and we'll probably meet at 6:30.
Yep. So October 2nd at
Yes.
6:30.
Yes, ma'am. That's
Alright.
the plan as
telling
we
you.
sit here and speak.
Okay.
Okay, but I do have a contract to bring to the board. I would like to make a motion to offer Christina Doty a contract as an educational support staff 1.0 full-time equivalency.
I'll second.
Thank you, Gray.
I was just going to ask, where is this position, do you know?
I believe this is Clarendon.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Hey,
Hooray.
wrapping it right along here. All right.
And believe it or not, I will have another para to bring to the October meeting, I believe, at this point. We've got
We
one
must
in
be in
the
pretty good
works.
shape in terms of paras.
You're in the best shape we've been in years.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do we have a lot of wood?
I know.
Okay.
That's it for
Anything
me.
else?
The Sugar Shack.
All right, policy.
Policy, I will make a motion that we make a second read on G15, which is security cameras utilization for adoption.
One second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's everybody. Thank you.
Next meeting?
Our next meeting is 10/8. Hope to see everybody there,
At 5:30, right?
5:30.
And,
Well said.
and I do think Len's question from a few minutes ago, it might be prudent to look at that class size policy. It really might.
Sorry.
We got a lot going on in policy.
Yes, we do.
Nick, you're next on buildings and grounds too.
We have not had a meeting since the last one. The next one is scheduled for 10/1, but I don't know the time, because I don't know if we're
5.
first or second.
5. I have 5.
I'm first, so I'm at 5.
You're at 5, yep.
Then 5:30 is
In and
finance.
out.
Right.
Yeah, and then finance.
Okay,
And finances is 6.
thank you very much. Community engagement.
Our next meeting is October 16th, and I think that'll be at 6:30. We're going to coordinate with Brian for the budget focus group, and that will be at 5:45. And then if it goes late, it goes late, depends on. And then just Brian also will hold another meeting on the 17th at 4:30 to review, it'll be a budget forum.
I have a question on that. Because the email that I just looked at said
I put
3:30.
3:30.
Oh, 3:30.
So are we doing
thank you.
3:30 or 4:30?
It's up to Brian.
Doesn't matter. My goal.
And then it will be in no, never mind. The one in the 16th will be in Shrewsbury, because that's where we're
We're
traveling
having our
to.
meeting.
It can be. We can talk about that.
Yeah, we can opt to not and have it here, so we have,
Yeah, my goal,
Access.
my goal was if we're doing a 5:45, doing 3:30 gives a little wider window where if folks say, oh, 5:45, I got kids, home, dinner, 3:30, I could make that.
Okay.
So that if we do them both at the same time, then we're gonna miss some folks.
Gonna get
So
the
if we
same
do them
people.
as, further apart,
Okay, so I stand corrected, it'll be at 3:30 on the 17th.
so 5:45, we do have the full board meeting at 7 PM is at Shrewsbury on that evening. Do we want to hold the budget forum there? Or do we want to hold the budget forum here and then we'll scoot up to Shrewsbury for our meeting?
or do we want to push Shrewsbury
that in the
travel
past.
off so that we can have everything based here and we're not losing anybody in the midst of travel, in case there's a snowstorm?
Not on.
What, it's October, you never know. We can do
It's been
Shrewsbury.
several years since we've had an October snow, but you're right, you never know.
We
It's
had one in
happened.
May.
It's happened. What do folks want to do?
If we did 5:45, it's like 15 minutes up there. So
I'd give 20.
Yeah.
I'd give 20 to be safe.
You have to account for the deer and turkeys and everything else.
What are we worried about if we have the finance meeting up there too? Are we worried some folks that we need to have there won't be able to be there?
We don't have access to hybrid when we're in Shrewsbury.
Oh.
Well, the budget forums we've been doing in person.
in person.
We've just
yeah.
done them in person.
Yep.
Okay.
And we've done them here because it's central if we think about everybody. It's a little more central. I guess here or Wallingford would be our better choices for being central. The worry would be we go up to Shrewsbury and we don't get anybody who heads up.
Yeah, in person.
Or
is-
you get some Shrewsbury people that you wouldn't see otherwise. But,
You flop 2 of them?
what do you mean?
Swap Shrewsbury with Wallingford, or?
Oh, for the
that doesn't-
visit
Tinmouth
schedule?
is the one in November. When's the?
I wouldn't swap.
No, never mind.
because
I changed my
principals are starting to try and get
What
ready
if
for
we-
those presentations.
What
But
if
if we
we-
asked Kristen, hey, do you want to switch, could we do our October 2nd meeting at Shrewsbury? And then our October 16, is it?
Just
would be
stay
back
here.
I could ask if we
Well,
could
I
do
also
that.
was thinking, can you swap the times on those,
Yeah.
on the
do
budget focus? Do the
3:30.
3:30
Yeah.
on Wednesday
yeah.
and
Yeah.
do the 5:45 on.
And we could do that too.
Thursday.
We could do that too.
That sounds like the easiest.
I can't. Wednesday, I'm daycare pickup. It's my only daycare pickup day because my wife has faculty meetings. So I can't be here 3:30 Wednesday. Sorry.
Well, I can do
Because
your
otherwise, that
daycare
was a great
pickup,
thought.
and I'll just take them back to my house. Right.
I mean, the October 2nd swap sounds like a good,
I can talk to Kristen and see if we can do
Ask
that.
if she
hopefully she
can.
doesn't, it's not
Yep.
like stressful to move it
Yeah,
closer.
Yep.
'Cause, yeah.
I can float that idea and see where we go.
Okay.
What,
Yeah.
do we have a backup plan if that's not?
Um,
Actually, what if, let's think the other direction. Instead of October 2nd, we could do November 6th for Shrewsbury. That just means we would go Shrewsbury, Tinmouth, 2 meetings in a row. We wouldn't land back here in the middle.
that's fine. We've done that before.
Maybe you can offer either
Okay.
to Kristen.
I'll ask Kristen if either of those work.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. so
Okay, in
10
that case, the
to-
next community engagement committee meeting will be 6:30 on October 16th.
Thank you for
Okay.
revamping after that, all of
Great.
that.
Love the flexibility.
Yep.
Okay, finance.
Not flexible.
Finance, that's me. We have some payroll warrants.
We haven't had a meeting.
Nope, not
our
since,
last
correct.
Board meeting. But our payroll warrants,
We have from September 13th, payroll warrant in the amount of $621,260.59. I will make a motion for that to be signed by the board.
I'll second that.
All in favor? All right, looks like everyone. And we have some accounts payable warrants. We have a general fund in the amount of $427,908.21. We have a general fund in the amount of $9,094.57. We have an ASP, remind me what that is again?
After-school program.
After-school program, in the amount of $834.68, and lunch in the amount of $4,597.61, for a total of $442,435.07. Make a motion to sign off on.
You want to do?
Do I include the other
I was
ones
gonna
in
say,
there?
Yeah.
bulk it all together.
Okay, and we also have a few student activity accounts payable warrants as well. One from Mill River in the amount of $1,086.44, and one from Wallingford in the amount of $1,000, for a total of $2,086.44. Can I make a motion to sign off on those accounts warrants?
So, hold on. We have one from Timoth for 1,000, and then Wallingford is the 2,086.44 cents.
I
Correct.
don't believe that is.
No, it's a
No.
total.
Yep. One from Mill River and one from Wallingford, for the total of 2,000, I believe. Because those numbers add up to 2,000.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
it looks like,
That's how I
they
decided
said, Stephen did read it right, even though I looked at it and I went, I don't know if that's right. It is right.
Okay.
If you draw the line across, it's hard to tell, but that was a total at the bottom, yeah.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
I was getting ready to second it,
Yeah.
and then I just got lost.
We're checking the box scores. All right, it looks good. All in favor?
Sorry, I've like got it here and it's a little confusing.
All right. And our next finance meeting will be on October
Oh, yeah.
1st
Yep.
at 5:30 PM. Please join us. And on the communication side of things, I am putting together a sort of town newsletter. Shrewsbury has a Shrewsbury Times Town's newsletter. I'm putting together an update for the Shrewsbury Town letter that I'm trying to write general enough that I'm just going to send it all to all of you, and you can repost it if you'd like on your own town boards or transfer station boards or front porch forums or whatever.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. any Transact, any other legal business?
I just have, speaking of Front Porch Forum, Carol, did other places, I know Wallingford received your letter?
I think.
Josh
I-
posted it
I heard
to-
Josh posted
Oh,
it.
okay.
And I don't know if it got anywhere
I
on the
didn't think that it
Shrewsbury.
went to Shrewsbury.
Oh, because I did send to all the board members asking them to.
No, you
put-
did, yeah, just
Um,
missed it.
But I did check the box, share with neighboring forums.
Mhm.
So I couldn't post on any other forums except Clarendon, because that's the one. I used to be able to, but now I don't know if they,
They've changed some
They've
things that
changed it.
it's made it
Yeah.
a little harder.
Yeah,
And
so-
it's great that you can check that box. I think the way that works is if it's a slow post day, they put it in. If it's not, they don't. So that's why it goes in some places but not others. So
and
it's
I
not a
think
guarantee.
it went in West Rutland
Yeah.
too, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we could have had them too.
yeah.
Second question, if I may. Thank you for putting the information in the newspaper. I see that it
Yeah.
finally got there.
We figured out where it was and what it was. So
Yeah, I
we'll
saw
keep-
that too.
yeah,
That
we'll do
was
that.
great, yeah.
Yep.
In,
We'll keep doing
in the
that.
Rutland Herald.
Community
a-
events.
And
Community
and I
event.
think I looked enough to see that Otter Valley, so Rutland Northeast is the only other
Yes.
district doing that. So,
That's the only other one I've seen.
yep, yep, yep.
Great.
So we'll keep doing that.
Yeah,
People use it.
thank you for
Absolutely.
doing that.
Absolutely.
All right, so agenda building, we're doing bylaws.
Yes, bylaws. On our calendar, we had a sports update, a quarterly sports update, and then progress on board goals or board education, whichever seems most appropriate. Do we want to peek at our goals again?
No.
Do we want to do a board education
Yes.
piece? What do we want to do?
I have a question.
Yep.
Is anybody going to the VSBA conference? And if board members wanted to attend, what's the process for that? Not that I'm
You
Yes,
get,
if-
sign up
Yep.
and then we,
You can register, and they will invoice us if you
Yeah.
register, and the board has a small fund to cover things like that. Yep.
When is it?
End of October?
You have to register by October 10th.
yep.
I might be away for it.
Is it like,
I think I
I want
remember,
to say,
like,
I can't
going
remember. I
through
think
that
it's the
process in my brain, but I can check. Is that Kelly?
23rd?
23rd?
No, it's at Lake
That Wednesday
Maury
night?
and-
Yeah, it's Lake Memorial all day.
I might be able to.
Right.
Is it just all day? I thought it was an overnight thing.
they do,
I don't
they do
think-
2 days, you can stay overnight if you want. I typically go the first day, because I feel like the first day they have
They have
more
more.
valuable things than
yeah.
the second day, and I don't like doing 2 days.
Yeah, October
That and their
9th.
rooms are kind
I'll
of
look
creepy.
at the dates and
Just
see.
saying, because I stayed there with the state.
You could drive up.
I'm going.
Okay, so anyway, all right, so let's do board education
Okay,
instead of
What do we wanna do?
goals.
What are we getting educated?
I don't know. What do we want to get educated on? Tell me, I'll do some research.
Is there any, no, that'd take too long. Well, no, I was just trying to think of VSBA, one of those little blurbs, but I don't think they
I
live
don't
on.
think they always coordinate
like-
with, or,
well, but you can access all the old ones, so if there was something we wanted to all, if we had time, look at and then come to discuss, I think that's how we talked about doing it in the past, not like sitting and watching it together, but
Right.
on your own time and we can come talk. You know, I wonder,
do we have anything else that's pressing that needs to be put on the agenda? Why do we seem so slow on our agenda items lately?
because
Do we talk about every,
Should we follow up with that?
it just seems like, so we have bylaws we need to revisit.
Yep.
We can get a sports update.
would it be helpful if there's no other strong opinion at all? I don't want to push this on anybody. Would it be helpful to do like a Vermont Education Finance 101 kind of thing? Just because I think that's
As
probably
it's
going to be the
related to
most relevant.
schools?
Yes,
Yes.
I think that's the biggest work we're going to do this year.
I think, yeah.
So if that, I mean, if nothing else is jumping out to
It's good
people.
timing.
Does that pull
Yeah.
Stan in too?
Oh, yeah, Stan would, I'm sure he'd love to answer questions. Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in on that. I think that would be unbelievably helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will dig up a VSBA resource around it, and I will get that to you so that you can do that if you want, and then we can come and have like a little more of an informal conversation and ask all those wonderful questions around, wow, how does this budget thing really actually work?
Oh,
Because it's funky.
executive session. Well, do we want to put that on there? Like the,
I think Len was just making sure we all had that resource to talk
never
about
mind.
why we would
Okay.
go into executive
Why we
sessions.
would
yeah.
and what warrants going in and,
Okay.
Community
I don't-
engagement might too, like, just to have, bring something to the board,
Mm-hmm.
as follow-up from the
Oh,
community
community
conversation.
engagement. Okay.
Just to make sure that we can close that feedback loop.
Yep.
Is that what you were thinking? Okay.
Okay. So I've got one tiny little thing, setting a bus subrate for the year. So bylaws, bus subrate, sports, education piece on finance, and then community engagement would like some time to discuss how the community conversation went and some follow-up to that. Okay? I think that does give us a pretty big agenda. It does.
okay.
Okay, great.
Sounds good to me. Do we need an executive session? All
None
right.
I'm aware of.
They are all adjourned at 8:32.